Hey, what up? How you doing? Welcome. We're just making it up as we go. We're making this as it's happening. You watching it, listening, respond, looking, enjoying me saying these things. We're making a little video on you here. YouTube, a place where they don't want you to see this. This isn't what they're interested in. YouTube's not interested in sharing this. Do you know how much of this stuff is clogging up YouTube? One day it's all going to be gone. That's something that people are talking about. It's going. It's already there. That's the difference between some of these other YouTubers and me. Is I know this is just internet garbage ready to be chucked away any moment. Google decides to have a little implosion. And so what I know, you know that. We know that, you know that. We're still here. We're still making these little things. So now we're all on the same page. We can just keep going. Keep making your stuff. Keep making your little things. Animation. How do they do it? Well, I think we all know how they do it. And they do it by struggling for many hours and being underpaid and overworked and then going on strike. That's how animators do it. And that's how animation is done. But maybe you don't have that full-time job where you're being crushed by the entertainment machine. Maybe you're just making your little things and posting them online by yourself. Good for you. Well done. You're taking some time out of your day to do stuff for yourself. In this economy? Before I get too far in, it should be somewhere near the start. I wanted to make a new intro. I got bored of the old one. I started making this. Then I didn't start making this. I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to change it up? All I had in my head is that I think I want to be running in it instead of walking. Nonchalantly walking in my old intro. And then I saw a random little animation, and I follow them. They're called Jesu on Instagram and other places, I guess. I think they're a Korean artist and animator. And I just saw a little animation. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it here, but anyway, they do like really, really cute, simple little pencil line animations. And there was one that was like a little character, him or them, running on the spot with this like paper pages, like in a little wheel, like blank pieces of paper coming on, and they were just like running. And it was like, I want to say the run cycle was like 6 frames. If that, it could be 4 frames. And it was just really simple and cute. And I was like, that is kind of what I was looking at as inspiration for this. Mine's a bit more like, I don't know, it's not as simplistic. It's not as good, to be honest, because their stuff is so simple. It's just got such a cute little cool energy to it that I couldn't recreate. I just overworked this one, but it's somewhat reminiscent. Like in the end, I end up making about 10 frames for this run cycle, I think. But I think the final one is only maybe 6 to 8. Like I realized that I should take out a few of the frames to make it sort of more jumpy. And it just had a cool vibe. Like sometimes too many frames and it looks too fluid and weird and a bit off. Like if you do too many and you're like, whoa, there's something not quite right about that. But we got there in the end. I don't know what more I can say in regards to the people who may have clicked on the video going, I want to learn how to animate. You came to the wrong place. But maybe I should think about doing it. Come on. People are hungry. They're hungry for knowledge. You want to learn. There's so many people out there just wanting to learn stuff. I mean, yeah, so then I get to the end. Like after I've done the run cycle, I just really wasn't sure then what to do in the background. I don't know if it happens in here, but I had an idea of doing like, you know when people make those little logo animations and they show with the same logo but like being done in different styles, and then it ends on the final one and you're like, this is the one we chose, kind of thing. I wanted to do that from the text, but but it just didn't look great. So I ended up there's just some like graffiti text writing similar to some of my character designs at the moment. I do a little tiny like pixel art version of the run cycle that I thought would be a cool idea, and I put it down in the corner, almost like it's sort of like some sort of weird UI thing in a video game. I feel like I've filmed a lot. This took a while. This was like 8 hours almost of sketching. So God, you're seeing a lot of frame by frame sped up in this time lapse, and I'm sorry. I kind of want to make videos sometimes where I don't do any cuts and I just talk, and then you can see the true, genuine version of me making these videos where I say stuff and then stop myself, as opposed to the highly cut together non-stop talking that you're usually used to. I don't know if that's a good idea. I just had that idea. A bunch of random things and clips and videos and ideas have sprung at me from my social media scrolling and my internet viewing recently, from like Ramdas and Rick Rubin, about like creativity and just thinking and listening, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. And also, I wanted to talk about as well, briefly, like Brittany Broski just did a random little video where she started talking about sublime art and Mark Rothko. And I was like, fuck yeah. Let's just talk about that. Let's talk about sublime art. It's something I'm interested in. Normally, I feel like these little make a new intro videos for me are quite like, in my head, they're the things that I do at the start of a new year. They're the things that I do when I like want a bit of change. I also like sort of using these videos, as these specific ones where I do a new intro, as ways to sort of get together in my head what I want these videos to be, what they represent, what I want to do moving forward with it, how I want to make these videos, what type of things I want to be making, why I'm making it. A good summing up / review of what the future's gonna be. Nothing different. Recently, so a random little Rick Rubin thing came up of him just, still haven't read that book. Got it, it's on my shelf. The Creative Act or whatever. But I think it was like a sort of, maybe a clip of him talking about that. I don't know. But he was just saying, like, as a creative or just someone who wants to be creating things, to not get wrapped up in the, what you're trying to achieve. And if you just simply treat all your creations and all your creative things that you're making as diary entries, and he like uses that word and like talks about it, just treat everything like a diary entry, you can't go wrong. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. There's no point in you don't judge a diary entry. You don't say, oh, this was a good or a bad diary entry. I'm sure there's some people out there who do. Like, well, actually, I haven't said good enough shit in this diary. It's a bad diary entry. What he means is the idea of getting rid of that view of like, oh, I haven't made a full animation, or like this painting's not good enough, or this blah is not good enough. Reinforcing that idea that like, if you're just true and honest and try and just attempt something, literally whatever it is, that creative thing that you've done, that you've made, is just a representation of where you're at now. Perfect and fine and good. And the idea then is that even if whether it's good or bad or whatever, you've made it in that mindset. Who knows what will happen to it? Someone might just see that random thing that you made and be like, oh yeah, we do want to hire you to make that work. That outcome of like getting a job or like making money off your art or whatever it is, progressing in your career, that's just an aside. That's irrelevant to just the act that you were in that moment of your creativity and your like truth as an artist of just making something. It's neither here nor there. You're just making shit. What do you think of that, huh? We're just saying things now. And then a random Ramdas clip came up, and what was he saying? He was briefly saying, like, he was just commenting on the sort of difference between like lots of art made in the East versus West, talking about signatures and like signatures as a very like egocentric thing, and like there are some cultures around the world, particularly in the East, where the artist doesn't sign their work because it's like, why would you? What that the West's view of like signing your work, making sure people know it's you, trying to be like, oh look, I've done this, look, it's me, I did it. Sort of like also an unhelpful maybe view of unhelpful, unuseful view of like what art is and making art. Now, I know we're verging now on this whole conversation, argument, idea or whatever about like, obviously I believe that an artist should make a living. What are we talking? Van Gogh died completely, no one recognized, poor, didn't make any money. Of course I'm not saying like, oh, it doesn't matter, artists can struggle and make nothing, but that's not the idea. We're talking about the like philosophy and the concept behind just like being a human and making art. There shouldn't be that aspect involved. We're all trying to get by, make a living, of course, trying to survive, but if that's anywhere close to like the forefront of your creation, there's always going to just be that little bit that's a bit like But that was what I thought was really cool about Brittany Broski just making that video about like Sublime. I wrote my essay. This is now separate, changing conversations, kind of. Still talking about art and stuff and creativity though. I wrote my like end of uni essay that wasn't very long. Like you're thinking, oh, the 10,000 word dissertation or whatever. I can't remember how long ours was. I feel like ours was like didn't have to be long at all. But anyway, mine was about sublime art. Yeah, I just got really into it and I'm still really interested in it. And one of my little animations on here from ages ago, the first animation that I did pretty much, is about sublime art. The sublime, if you don't know, this is just gonna be me going off what I know. So it might not be all right, but I'm going to try my best. But the sublime art movement or like idea or philosophy behind sublime art is just that essentially it is any art piece or artistic creation, painting, image that calls into question sort of existence itself. It's art that makes you think about things outside the piece itself. It's art that makes you reflect on the universe. So I think its origin is in a sort of weird place, because I personally feel like the origin of sublime art is almost like the least sublime art there is. There's a very religious origin, because sort of the original sublime images art that was created is religious. It's of like heaven and angels and God and things like that. And that's sort of the origin of where sublime art came from in a way. But then it sort of moved through history and different art movements. It sort of then became the sort of genre of paintings and art that I feel like shows off the sublime the best, and it's sort of maybe, in my opinion, the sort of like truest form of it. All the art that is just sort of like giant vistas and landscapes and things like that, always showing the grandeur of nature, the power of nature, of the universe, the scale, the size of existence itself, and then always sort of showing that in comparison to sort of humans and human impact on the world. Or like one of the main sort of like poster images of sublime is that German painting, I can't remember who did it, of the guy on top of the mountain, like looking out, you're behind him looking out over his shoulder sort of, and seeing him standing amongst like a huge misty landscape. Wander above the sea of fog. Yeah. But yeah, it's essentially just imagery that calls into question like yours and humans' sort of place in the universe, like the difference of scale, how vast the universe is, how powerful and strong and like huge nature is and the environment is that we are in, and using that as a way to make people consider more than sort of just yourself and your life, or a story that is very confined. And then, so the cool thing about Brittany's video then was that she's focusing on like another version, which is quite a modern art version, which is abstract art. The idea being, you know, these huge, strange, abstract, just blocks of color like Rothko, just make you look and gaze into things, make you consider things, consider stuff that is outside of what it's showing you. Just having a canvas that is just a block color. There's nothing to sort of focus on. There's not like an illustration of a thing, a building or a person to then be like, oh yeah, so this painting is about that building and that person. You're just sort of overwhelmed with just the nothingness of it. That's why the abstract movement, which I didn't really look into much when I was writing my essay, is something interesting. But anyway, in my little essay, I then like moved on. I tried to briefly talk about the whole history of it, and my whole thing was that I was just looking at animation. I was looking at film and animation, and I essentially just talked about a bunch of Studio Ghibli films. I talked about Adventure Time, you know, looking at those types of things through a sublime lens, because it's about philosophy and it's very spiritual in nature. Just the idea of like art that is making you consider existence. Like, it's simultaneously vague, but you kind of know it when you see it. And, you know, very often it's funny how like it's a lot of Eastern stuff comes from Eastern philosophy more so maybe than Western stuff. And there are a lot of different cultures and philosophies around the world which do, you know, maybe more so than others, naturally inclined to that kind of way of thinking, while rather than defining stuff so rigidly. It's very easy to see why like Studio Ghibli, you could just go through like so many films are essentially about the relationships between man and nature, like humans and the natural world, our impact on it, our place in it, the concepts of like oneness, how connected we all are. I mean, also the apocalyptic stuff even. I sort of talked about like things like Ponyo, you know, where it's about like natural disasters, the strength of nature just all consuming land, like the ocean flooding everything. Even though it's like a very kid-friendly kind of cutesy tale, it's like actually this kind of, the imagery and the story around Ponyo is like this epic representation of the power of nature. And then likewise, I was talking about like Adventure Time, like just having this very fantastical and weird and bizarre thing for kids, but also it being this giant sort of limitless apocalyptic landscape where there's just a boy and his dog going through it, exploring it. It's sublime. Barbie, Ryan Gosling line, you seen it? But there you go. Did I manage to reset, get my mind aligned for these videos to come? I don't know if I did. Did I say enough? I rambled too much. Like I said at the start, YouTube isn't interested in sharing this. This is just old school shit. This is just rambling nonsense. Some guy saying stuff to a camera. YouTube don't want none of this. They want like Mr. Beast giving away money and being loud for like 3 minutes. That's what you got to do though. You've got to create the stuff. We need to do it like a mass movement. Apparently there's some new wave YouTube movement going on. I don't think it's what this is, what I'm talking about, slightly different. They're using it to make incredibly arty, philosophical, cool looking videos that are very like peaceful and slow. I'm just kind of like using YouTube just to make old school style boring vlogs. But what are you gonna do? Huh? Speaking of films though, we recently saw Poor Things. Holy shit, that was a good film. You should definitely go see Poor Things if you can. I mean, there's a lot. It's adult in nature. There's a lot of adult themes, gross stuff and weird stuff, bizarre stuff. But it was incredible. So it's kind of like it is sci-fi in a way, in the same way that like Frankenstein is. To sum it up, the entire film is just like a gigantic, incredibly written and done representation about the trope in sci-fi films called Born Sexy Yesterday. I don't know if you've heard about this. The idea behind Born Sexy Yesterday is that it's this trope that is used all the time in specifically sci-fi / fantasy stuff, where there is a female character that is introduced in the film. They're like fully formed, fully grown, hot, that is just empty. They're seeing the world for the first time. They're essentially dumb. They don't know anything. Whether it's like from an alien ship or just like they're an AI or they're a robot or they're a, I don't know, some tribal warrior that doesn't know the rules of the world. And there's always just then a main man character who gets to protect her, tell her how to do things. She knows how to like beat stuff up, but she's clueless about, oh, why shouldn't I be naked? You know? Dumb shit like that. The main character's simultaneously like lusting over them, but also like teaching them what to do. And so the entire film of Poor Things is like a critique of that. And it's hilarious when you like watch it and you kind of think about that. It's just so good. I feel like you could then get films they're taking the piss out of and play them at the same time. The beats of the scene would play out in like things like James Bond maybe, or just like random sci-fi shit. And it's just done in a hilarious way. She's got the brain of a baby. That's the plot. A mad scientist has created Emma Stone's character, a woman who died, and then they put the brain of her baby in her. So she's now a person with the brain of a baby. That's the plot. It's so well done. There's so much like the costume in the backgrounds, the design of the world, because it's like everything is seen through the eyes of a baby. That's why everything looks so fantastical and magical. Go watch it. Sorry, I got off track. I need to end the video. I hope you enjoyed watching me steadily make this little run cycle. Run cycles are hard. Try your best though. You will find loads of stuff online to help you. You don't need me to help you. I use Photoshop frame by frame. I use the timeline window. And I just sort of guess. It's practice and guesswork. I'm sure a pro animator could make something better than this. But this is what I've made. And I think it looks pretty cool. Has social media died? Are we overwhelmed with content? Are we really interested in anything that we're watching? Is it the end? Have we all been brought up to think that we should be making stuff, that no one is interested in the things that are being made because everyone's making shit? I sometimes worry that that's the case. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? But what are you gonna do about it? We watched all of Fargo. We've seen all 5 seasons of Fargo now. Fargo's good. You should watch that shit. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Don't even stress. We're all gonna make it for a while, and then we're gonna not make it. And the universe is gonna keep on going. And you're it. Oh yeah, by the way, I don't have any music for this. I don't know what music to do. I'm gonna struggle. I'm gonna end up making a whole new video, more drawings, more art, and then I'm not gonna have the music. I don't know. So just to warn you, I haven't found my music. How can I get music? I need like a 7 to 10 second intro. Maybe I'll try different songs. Just know that in the next video, whatever you hear at the start might not be it. Not that you give a shit, but sometimes you just have to say cringy shit, alright? There are sentences and words that you put together that the idea is there. You just said it in a cringy way. You go to bed, you wake up and you think about it again and you go, fuck. Comment something though.